Morning guys, and happy Monday to you. Bit of a gross grey Monday this time around as well, and it looked like it was a little bit of a moist weekend for most of the guys, especially the guys racing down in KZN this weekend. So Jolivet, the venue for this weekend's opening round of the National Off-Road Championships, only for the bikes once again. No national championship for the quads, unfortunately, once again in 2019. But the big story was the terrain once again in KZN. So last year it produced not a surprise winner, but a new winner, and that was Bradley Cox. And he's a guy that's, you know, he's been coming good the last couple of years on enduros and motocross, of course, that's where his footing is. But off-road was kind of a new game to him. Anyway, he spanked some real key players, and it was expected it was going to be kind of a locals only situation once again in Jolivet. So the terrain was much more rolling, more open hills, less forest. Not too much cane fields for the guys to deal with as well, but also the conditions, the soil. It was raining most of the time, so it was a very wet time trial and pretty much a wet race during race day as well. So locals knowledge was definitely going to come into play. What we didn't know was the surprise packages that were going to come out of this year's, and that was a lot of the enduro and extreme riders turned up for the National Offroads, obviously feeling that they wanted to work on their speed and their pace. I'll cut to the chase. It was a win for Wade Young. That's right, multiple roof winner and multiple extreme world enduro rounds winner, Wade Young, winning an off-road on his 300 Sherco. It's not that the bike can't do it, not that the rider can't do it, but when you put him up against riders like D'Artagnan Lovejoy, Kenny Gilbert, Ross Branch, Lawrence Mahoney, he beat some real tasty riders. Not just that, his good buddy Travis Teasdale got a number 2 finish, so that was first and second overall and in the open OR1 category, meaning they definitely beat out key players. Most of them riding on 450s, this year Lawrence Mahoney on the 500. So it went Wade, TT, Travis Teasdale, so Travis is on a 300 KTM this year, riding for the Eurotech team, but pretty much an enduro spec bike on both of those riders. Then third place in the first of the true off-road races was Kenny Gilbert. So Kenny did beat Ross at this event last year as well. It's a bit of a monkey event for Ross. Doesn't really like that kind of terrain, doesn't really like it when he can't really smash through the gearbox and hang cable totally. But he was good enough for a 4th place, and that is going to set him up well for the championship. Bear in mind as well that Double T and Wade won't be in the full championship. This was a gooseberry event for them. They just pulled it out of nowhere. But as far as the championship goes, it'll run Kenny, Ross, and it was a 5th place finish, but realistically a 3rd place finish as far as the championship goes for Lawrence Mahoney, debuting back onto his best friend, the 500. The rest of the category breakdowns weren't too surprising. So Bradley Cox getting picked up by the factory KTM leader tread squad. No surprise to see him take the win on the 200 gates. Everyone really expected that, and he delivered the goods. The story was, though, in 2nd place, Cade Manti, who again is a real tall, extreme and enduro rider. But he showed good pace last year at this event when he was on the 125. He's now moved up into OR3s, and it wasn't really a big surprise to see him take a number 2 spot. But I think KTM have been awarded by picking up the kid, old Coxie, onto the factory squad, and he gave them back a good high five at the opening round with the category win. I think 6th place overall as well, showing that he is really on the numbers. Reigning national champion out of the OR3s, Jared Kutsia, he made the move up, and he's been waiting a long time to make the move up into the OR2s. Just desperately needed to get that monkey off his back last year, nailed down his championship. He did that. It was a close run thing, but he got the job done. It was 1 point between himself and Coxie for last year's championship. So he leaves Cox on the small bikes, moves up to the 350s. He didn't take the opening round win, but he ran a very good 2nd place to Cole, who is your reigning champion on the gate as well. So this is Gareth Cole, Hayden Cole racing in the OR3s. Gareth Cole is the big swinger in the OR2s. He's got the number 1 plate, he's got the red plate, he's the championship leader, he's the points leader coming out of round 1 with Jazz on his back wheel. That's going to be a close championship, so watch out for that. Tucky will come into it at some point. Tucky's still coming back from his injuries though, and that was a bit of a story. Tucky, Swanepoel, quite a few guys coming back from injuries there to kind of get as many points on the plate as possible. But this will no doubt be their bogey event, and they'll throw away some points from this one. But they were there, and they're still going to take probably a couple of months. Swanee is going to take about a year to come right after that terrific injury at the beginning of last year with his hand, but he's rideable. Tucky, same story. He's coming back from a spinal injury. He showed that he can kind of get himself up to pace, but expect rounds 2 and 3 where you'll see Tucky really come into form and start hassling for a podium. On to some of the age group categories, starting with the kids who just moved up. So the 125 gate, always going to be a wild one. Most of the key players were down there. Davin Cocker, though, was the best of them. So he took a couple of wins at the end of last season on the GXCCs. Wasn't sure if he was going to race the Nationals, but just based on the pace and the form that he can run, turns up with obviously the full support from the Whole Shot MCA squad on the Husky, takes the win ahead of Mr. 125 Ryan Pelser. So those were the guys that are going to take some good points. Pelser, always going to be a key player in the championship, but Cocker showing his form early on, and obviously we're going to see possibly a new 125 champion this year. It's going to be tricky. Robbie was there, and obviously he's defending champion on the 125 gate. He stays in 125s and high schools for this year, but out of the top 2, going to be tough to defend from that point. Cocker is the man at the moment. On to the older age group categories. So the winningest, I think he's taken 5 championships in a row at the moment. Keeps his seat on the factory KTM squad, and that's Bolly Van Rooyen. Jan Van Rooyen, as he always shows up in timing and scoring, but it's Bolly to you and me. He stays on the KTM factory squad, takes the opening round win, wears the red plate going into round number 2, and I think he's going to have a real hard push this year. Closest to his wheel, and also now up onto the 350 4-stroke, riding under Roos colours, but he was on the 300 smoker last year, and that's Wade Blau. Blau's already taken the opening round win in the GXCCs, beating out Big Bruce Viljoen. Bruce was a no-show, deciding to not race in the National Championship Offroads this year, concentrating on some Enduros and GXCCs. But it was Bolly Van Rooyen and Blau. Those were the 1 and 2s. And then in the Masters, the older category, Wayne Farmer, desperate to get his number 1 plate back that he lost to Peter Hall. Now, it wasn't Peter Hall that opened up the winning account, and it wasn't Wayne Farmer. This time around, it was Faan van Deventer. Again, a little bit of local knowledge, not necessarily that they know the track, but they have a knowledge of the feel of the dirt and the conditions down there. So Faan van Deventer taking the win ahead of Farmer, but remember, this is a very long championship, and Farmer is a very good championship racer, but those were the 1 and 2s for now. Hull at the moment is going to have to wait for his day on the dry, hard pack, open, wide open tracks that he prefers, to see if he can get onto the top step once again. For the Black Iron Racing squad, they had a couple of riders down there. The Peterson sisters rocked up. Carricker was down there getting a good job done, but of course I need to mention something. No ladies championship, or certainly no ladies category at the opening round, which meant they had to go and line up in a man's gate. Carricker went on to, I think, complete 4 laps in the OR2 category against some key players, but she was time barred. The reason she was time barred, it was a 50-kilometer loop, so she got lapped by the dudes out there, but she still did a very, very good job. And I tell you what, when the girls go out and race against the boys, we often see them really pick up the pace big time. Not that the Peterson sisters need to get that much faster, but Carricker did a great job. On the OR2 gate, then lining up with some of the real tasty riders, meaning she was racing up against Bradley Cox. Janke Petersen on the Shimwell's Yamaha, also obviously racing in the Black Iron Racing colours, did a good job off the gate, but pretty much the gate is where everything went wrong. About 10 k's in, having a major problem, putting a crack in the engine. All the good juices came out of the engine. That was the end of that, so unfortunately no finish for her. But it's all good practice, all good training, and all good experience for the girls going and racing in different provinces under different conditions as well. On the senior gate, Vian Duplessis, always going to be a key player to watch out for. He's still kind of getting himself used to how the tracks are running. Never really enjoys the mud races down in KZN, but still 6th place on the gate for the senior nationals. That's putting him in a good position, good points on the plate, and a good showing and good footing as always for the Black Iron Racing squad. Where else were they racing? Well, Mamarock happened as well this weekend. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get to it. There's a lot of stuff going on, as you can see, in the racing month of March, but Mamarock, their first Super Enduro event of the season. Clayton Codd and Rob McAlpine were out there. They took the gate. They're our rock hoppers as far as the Black Iron Racing squad goes, so they're keeping their blades sharp before they go up and race the rest of the EWXCs and the rest of the Lowveld Enduros. They both made the cut as well. McAlpine a number 2 spot, Codd in a number 3 spot. That shows that they are key players and keeping things nice and tight as they go forward into the rest of the season. So good job to the rock hoppers and the bouncers. Looking at our other team that looks after us here at Hollywood Hills as well, so we show them as much love as we can, that's 421 Racing. Now with Gideon, Marty and Brian taking a little bit of a weekend out, it was up to the support riders. Remember, there's quite a few riders on the 421 squad. Only 4 official riders running under the Dragon Energy colors and the CST colors, but 421 have a big support rider package, and it was up to them this time to wave the flag. It was the Reeton Rally up in Limpopo where the lads headed, getting the job done and waving the flag for the squad. They didn't do a bad job as well. They couldn't quite win the event. That was Stefan Swanepoel that walked away with the win. But a second and a third place was definitely respectable for the De Beer brothers. And they are probably going to be in the mix for the rest of the GXCCs and a couple of the rest of the tours that we cover here on Hollywood Hills. But well done to the brothers De Beer. Great story to see them still getting the results for the 421 squad. So we catch our breaths as we head into the halfway mark of March. I told you it was going to be a wild March, and it really is. We start getting into the double up situations now. Next weekend is a cool one, as always. The second round of the GXCC Tour, where we're expecting probably another entry of over a 400 rider gate. That's just super cool, and everyone's dead excited to get across to Falkville. Falkville, classic race venue, challenging terrain as well. A little bit rougher and gnarlier than the opening round was, and it's going to definitely see different riders coming through as well. More hard pack style out at Falkville. Then the weekend after that, we start heading into a double header. So it's the opening round of the National Enduro Championships down in KZN. So that is already up and advertised, but of course they're a little bit late on coming to the party with their dates as well, meaning that some of the riders may be missing in action because they'll go to Gold Rush, one of the big classic race venues held by the Lowveld Enduro Club around the Pilgrims Rest area in Mpumalanga. So that's a double up, and it's going to split the difference, and we might see small numbers across both of those events. I hope both events run cool. Definitely as far as the National Enduro goes, I think it's going to be a good gate. Everyone loves to go and race Enduro down in KZN. It's absolutely prime, but at the same time, Pilgrims Rest in Mpumalanga is really cool extreme riding terrain, so it's definitely going to be a flip of the coin for that one. Then the last racing event of the racing month of March is the second round of the 424 racing series. The cross-country series, I've been working with Horsforth and the crew up there, and they are really starting to get a real polished game. They've got a brand new track, a brand new race venue for round number 2, much less rocks than the previous event, but the previous event did give us good numbers. I think it was around about 150 bikes, 150 quads, and although there were some challenges out on the track, because remember, they got almost swamped out the week building up to the event where we had that gnarly rain, but this is going to be slightly more foresty, slightly more open, certainly a more flowing version of the track as well. So we're hoping to see a lot of you guys up there as well, and it comes at the perfect time just after payday, so we hope to see you guys up there. Also, here's confirmation of the dates. Remember, this is going to be a 6-round championship tour, all running around the Middelburg area, so make sure you guys get your calendars locked and loaded. I know there were still a couple of gaps left. I've pretty much locked off my entire calendar now with everything being confirmed, but that is what's on the page. So that wraps us up for Hollywood Hills as we head into the halfway marker of March. A little bit of a wild one this time. Next week, I think what I'm going to do is head out to some of the shops once again. Should be able to go and see the brand new opening, or sorry, it's just open, I think a week and a half ago, of Raceworks KTM. Go and check out the toys and see what's happening down that side, and we should be able to bring you a Hollywood Hills from on site. But of course, next week we'll be covering a wrap up of GXCC round number 2, Falkville. Tune in for that.